Wow, just a little bit late. Welcome to Real Time Recorded. Dave Michels from Talking Points, Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research. How you doing, Zeus?
Oh, good. We're a little late, but better late than never.
Yeah, better late than never. And this time we split up to cover the world. So
Yeah.
I went to Nice Interactions in New York,
hmm
and you were in I think it was Vegas.
Yep. Always in lovely Vegas.
Always in lovely Vegas for Cisco
Yep.
Live. Both of these appear to be pretty good events. Seems like a pretty good year to be at pretty good year for both companies.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to hit first?
Let's talk about Nice first. They're an interesting company, contact center vendor. I'm assuming, based on every other event I've gone to, that AI was a big part of the show, probably the focal point of the show. And I'm curious, given every CCAS vendor today says they're an AI vendor, well, what are they doing with AI?
They're all in on AI, and
Well,
it
who
was
isn't?
indeed a little different than other CCAS providers because everybody else is talking about OpenAI and ChatGPT, and Nice is sticking to their story. They're sticking to Enlighten, which is their AI they've been developing for, I guess, I don't know, 8 years. They announced three new products. Enlighten Actions, which is to optimize operations. Enlighten Copilot, we would probably call Augmented Agent or Agent Assist, and Enlighten Autopilot, which is the virtual agent stuff. And they're building a pretty strong story down here. So, the way they're differentiating around their AI is leadership in CCAS, kind of the perfect storm. Leadership in CCAS, unique data sets that they have, and they've understanding customer intent over the years, domain expertise, existing relationships with customers, and more importantly, with patterns. And they've built their own AI. They consider it a moat, and they're positioning it as enterprise grade AI solutions for CX. So it's a pretty compelling story. But the part that was really interesting to me, and I was, because I the last few interactions, I guess, well, last year we were at Cisco Live in person, but the last few interactions have been virtual, and the keynote that Barack does has been green screen heavy, and he's gone all out. He's very creative in his green screen keynotes, and I was wondering what he would do in person, and I have to say he nailed it. He did a really good. It wasn't just him. A lot of the keynotes were done very, very well, particularly Barry Cooper as well. But very interactive, impressive graphics that were well coordinated with on-stage performance. Really good stuff. Really building the story around this new wave of AI. The company combined the event with a financial day with financial analysts in New York. Double-digit growth, 35% operating margin, just the usual stuff. Really in a nice sweet spot where everything's coming together. So I don't know. It was very, very good.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Companies that do their own AI versus ones that go leverage the toolkits of the AI companies, because there's certainly, you would think, a time to market advantage of tapping into Google or NVIDIA or Microsoft or something, but then there's a custom advantage of doing it yourself. And so that's going to be really interesting to see which, and I guess we'll find it over time, which way proves out to be the best way. But certainly Nice is big enough to do their own, right? That you would think.
Yeah. They're really, I mean, they're really building a pretty strong AI story. Kind of hidden in the headlines of all this stuff was their Elevate AI, which has been around for a while. I think you use Otter a lot for transcribing. Elevate AI is their transcription engine, and it's always been available as a separate service, but they actually made it free now. And so there's a freemium model. You can pay for it, you can get it free, but the free model is pretty wide open, and you can upload all your conversations, all your contact center interactions into Elevate AI now. So they're expanding their TAM. I mean, between going to smaller businesses with Elevate AI, breaking out of the contact center with broader CX, broader customer interactions, um, uh, automation opportunities that AI is opening up. They're just really expanding their TAM. It's actually they're really in a good spot. I have to say they're doing all the
Yeah,
right
no,
things. So
I think when we roll the clock ahead, there, the number of contact center vendors is going to certainly rationalize down, but they'll be one of the ones left standing. There's no doubt about that.
It's interesting because I think it's going to go. The old days we had the premises-based leaders, and then we had the CCAS leaders. I have a feeling it's going to kind of go back to the leaders being a mixture. I mean, you were at Cisco, and Cisco's doing a mixture. Avaya's coming back, and they're actually, people don't realize it, but their new financials are pretty attractive. They got rid of all that debt, and they're in a pretty good spot. The enterprise contact center leaders. People are going to shoot me for this. Are going to be a mixture of the pure cloud companies like NICE and some of these premises companies. I think we're going to see a hybrid story kind of develop out of this.
Oh, sure. I mean, we've been talking about that a long time. Like, DoD and governments and things. I mean, they're never moving their stuff to the cloud in a big way. I mean, there's regional concerns. There's data sovereignty issues. On-prem's people have asked me, like, when is all this stuff going to move to the cloud fully? It's like, I don't know, I'll be dead when that happens. Right? It's so far in the future. So I just think there's pretty
optimistic view of your lifespan there. You have to be careful what you say there. So, but
there are a lot of issues that have to be that have to be taken care of before we can holistically move this stuff to the cloud. And it's just that never happens, right? There's still TDM phones around, right? So, on-prem is going to stick around for a long time. Just like look at the compute space. Dell's at $100 billion in revenue now, and they still ship a ton of on-prem servers. So,
we've got some live participation here. I just see Brett Shockley is joined in here, and he's basically saying there are a lot, both these events. I've talked to a lot of people that are going to be we got Avaya coming up this month. We have Variant next week. There's just it's a big context. Genesis is doing an event. I'm not sure if anyone's going to it, but Genesis has an event. Since I brought up Genesis, I got to say, speaking of keynotes, I'm looking at that Barack keynote and how good it was, and I keep on thinking back to that Mountain Empathy thing, which it's night and day differences. But but there's just a lot going on, and Brett is also pointing out that a lot of people are going to want private clouds as well. And so right up what you're saying there as well.
I didn't see Cisco Live, but there was so much that expo. The expo hall at Cisco Live was the biggest I'd ever seen. And
how much of it was AI oriented? Because like Scott here is pointing out that everyone's talking about AI. AI is pretty much. I mean, it was a big theme at Cisco. We got to get into Cisco here, but a lot of AI announcements coming out of Cisco.
Yeah, there was a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it had to do with the security and networking space, but Cisco didn't hit us over the head with it. I thought, which was good. Like a company like NVIDIA is going to, because they're, the more AI there is, the better it is for them. Cisco did talk about it a lot, obviously, but they use it as a technology to help them build better products. Right now, there are some forward-facing things, like they announced an AI assistant for the SOC. So if you're a SOC engineer and you want to find out what your weakest vulnerability areas are, you can ask the AI agent to do, or the your little virtual AI enabled SOC agent to do that with you, and things like that. But I think there's just there's no getting away from it now, right? The can of worms has been opened, and as Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA CEO, said, the iPhone moment has happened, and it's what I think ChatGPT did, Dave, is it raised the awareness from business leaders, right? It's not just a technology thing anymore. So now everybody's focused on it. I did ask one of the Cisco execs actually what they're feeling of ChatGPT is internally. Like, are they okay with employees using it? If you ask an employee to go do some research on Wi-Fi 7 or something, can they go type it into ChatGPT and give you the printout? And they kind of said they know what's happening. They're not really sure, at the end of the day, how they're going to manage it. They're asking people to use common sense now, but when you ask people to use common sense, that's everyone's definition. That's different, right? So, but clearly, it's been a big part of WebEx for a long time. It's been a big part of their security tools for a long time. Like, they have a technology that actually can find malware and encrypted traffic. They're not breaking the encryption. What they're doing is they're using AI to look at the traffic flow, and they determine that it's got malware in it, right? So, and so that's, AI has been around. While we've only been making it the theme of every event recently, it's, you and I both know it's been around a long time.
Yeah, the generative aspects. But I covered the Enlighten actions in Copilot and Autopilot from NICE. But Cisco made a bunch of announcements as well. So I got the wrong hashtag here. It's not. What was the right hashtag? It was.
It's just Cisco Live.
Cisco, just Cisco Live.
Yeah, they went over to CLUS.
I'll have to change that here. There's, obviously I wasn't at that event. Can't do it all. Okay, so let's see if I got that right. Except for the I being capitalized. But getting closer. I'm getting closer. But what were some of the announcements that they made there around AI? Because I know they made announcements around AI.
Yeah, well, again, they had in the context of Collab, right? They did announce some generative AI capabilities there, but some of the ones we had been shown in preview before, meeting summaries, things like that. They announced the new room bar that's got the cinematic mode in it, where you can run around a room and it's going to have the camera follow you and spin around, and then it'll pick you up on a different camera. So they did announce that, but a lot of the AI announcements did happen in the area of network and security operations. And I think when, for IT pros, and they said this on stage, John Davidson, who runs networking, said this, that IT has gotten increasingly more complex over the past decade or so, and now the mission from Cisco is to simplify IT operations. In fact, there wasn't a lot of new boxes and things like that announced. Last year we had some new catalysts and things like that. There wasn't any of that. It really was about
no. There was one box. There was one collaboration bar. I saw it. I saw it. There was no details on it. But I did see it.
Yeah, no, that was the one. They actually did talk about the fact, though, that all the Cisco devices, they decided years ago to standardize on NVIDIA GPUs in those boxes, and that's on their devices, and that's allowed them to do a lot of cool things. But the big theme for Cisco this year was about building the super clouds, if you will, where there's one for networking and one for security. WebEx was already one. Full stack observability. They're building a sustainability cloud that's got all the data in them. And now it'll be interesting to see how they, make these things a little more cross-functional. So,
they also announced at Cisco some updates to WebEx Go.
Yeah, with AT&T, and I know you've been bullish on that a long time, right? The Mobility 3.0, as you call it.
It's interesting because the WebEx Go is a virtual MVNO is what they call it. Mobile virtual network operator. And so if you have WebEx Go, you go anywhere you go in the world, your phone says WebEx on it, and it works. It's basically a global service. Microsoft, like with Verizon, what they call Teams Mobile, you have Verizon on your phone, and so there's pros and cons to both these models. But now Cisco's got both models. So Cisco's got the MVNO model with WebEx, but a lot of people, I don't really want to go to WebEx as my mobile carrier. I want to stick with the carrier I know. And so that works with Verizon's favor with Microsoft. But if you happen to know AT&T or happen to be an existing customer of AT&T, then you can get to keep that plan as well. But they also announced, France. Even though WebEx Go works globally, you can only buy it in certain countries, only a few countries, and now they've added France, which is so
Well, I mean,
bonjour, WebEx go.
they got good relationships with all the telcos. They'll continue to add those things. So, in fact, of all the collab vendors, they've got better relationships with the telcos than anybody. So for them being able to drop those in one by one is pretty interesting. They also announced a partnership with Audi. They'll be the first collab vendor in an Audi, and they didn't have an Audi on the expo hall, but they did have a Ford pickup truck, and I was curious enough that I stopped in and got a little demo of it, and I've been kind of skeptical of that, thinking, why do people...
Did you buy a truck first of all? I'll be asking
No, I
that.
didn't buy a truck. They weren't selling them there, so
Okay, all right.
I tried to drive away with one, but the expo hall was too crowded to get it out of there. But I was a little skeptical of why you needed that in there, and after seeing it work, it's pretty seamless, pretty cool. If you're a field service person, I can think of military use cases, and the way Cisco's looking at that is it's just another connected endpoint. And anywhere that you have a connected endpoint that you might need to communicate with somebody, let's embed communications in it, and two clicks and you're up and going on
So
WebEx.
I gotta say, I'm totally confused by this whole WebEx automotive strategy, and I love the idea of being able to have a meeting on my phone, on my dashboard of my car. And there's been many times where I pulled over and had a meeting using my laptop or my phone. So I understand the need to have a meeting space in the car, but I don't understand what the benefit is of having it built in to the car. I mean, wouldn't it be better just to have like a screen share or just use your laptop? Are you going to buy a Ford? Are you any more likely to buy a Ford because it has WebEx built into the truck than you would have before it had WebEx built into the truck?
No, probably not. But if you're running a big fleet of vehicles and you want to be able to communicate with, if you're a telco and you've got a bunch of field service people up there and they need to be able to communicate and show parts, that might tip the scales in your favor, right? As Evans pointed out, Zoom's been in Tesla for a while, so I think it, we're getting to a point where I don't think it's for the knowledge worker, at least initially. I think it's for field service and any kind of mobile, security people, things like that. I can even see like law enforcement, first responders, where you do need to communicate. And you're right, you could use your mobile phone, but you might use that for something else, right? So by having it in the dash, it becomes easier to use. Right now, it actually just disables the video if you're moving. But even from a safety, if you want to do an audio, like hop on a meeting over the audio bridge, it's easier to touch the screen and do it that way than it is to go to your phone and flip through the menus and go to the calendar and things like that. So
my car does not have Windows 95 in it. It's just a basic VT100 terminal.
Don't insult it, but it's Windows NE. We know that.
Because WebEx is really set up a lot of cars. I mean, Evan mentioned Zoom, and it seems like there's a race to get. And I know Teams. I think Teams is installed on a few cars as well. So I just don't understand this race around that. And I don't know if any of these guys have exclusive agreements. Does that means that this is Audi only going to install WebEx? I guess we don't really know that. But it does kind of play into Cisco's IoT vision, I guess.
Everything's connected, and so if you can connect
everything's connected.
Yeah.
Scott wanted to know earlier about cinematic.
By the way, it's interesting they put them in EVs, though. That's the interesting part about it, though. Like, there's no reason they've only put them in the EVs, right? Like with Ford, it's in the electric pickup trucks and the Mustangs. But it's not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Scott, back to the earlier about the video. Scott asked earlier if they give any deliverable dates on cinematic experience.
I think by end of year is what they said. I'd have to go look at the press release, Bo. So
because I know everybody's racing toward multi-camera experiences in the meeting room. No, I heard.
Let's assume using the
From what I've
university.
seen on Twitter and what I spoke to a number of people. Sounds like the WebEx conference or the Cisco Live was a great event, and a lot of activity there. I understand they you can't share it. That they announced some big wins on some contact center deals, and so that sounds like a great event. I can't tell you how the nice event had just such good energy. It was just so good. They did it very clever. They had Sarah Jessica Parker as their celebrity, and so they were using the hashtag CX in the city. I thought that was pretty clever. I don't know why it was CX and the city. It should have been CX in the city. But I'll give them a 9 out of 10 on that one. I think that was.
I thought it was CX in the city. It was and. Huh? That's interesting. Maybe it was too close to copyright rules or something like that. So.
Who knows? There had to be some logical reason.
I think the other thing that when we talk about WebEx, that where they really have gained religion, Dave, is with Microsoft interoperability. I don't think this is lip service anymore. I talked to G2 about it, and he basically said, look, with the share they have, we want to use them to create a tailwind for ourselves. And so they're dropping 1,000 eyes into the Cisco devices, so they can very quickly troubleshoot Teams problems. And I think you can definitively say today that when you run Teams on a Cisco network, when you're using Cisco devices, that experience is going to be better than running on a different network, different devices, because they have so much instrumentation and troubleshooting capabilities into it. In fact, I was talking with someone from Worldwide Technology about this, and he was telling me that, I mean, the Teams troubleshooting capabilities are on par with WebEx right now. So,
hey, Brett, I think you can turn off closed caption on the playback, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not actually in LinkedIn right now. And thanks for Evan. Apparently, I was wrong all this time. It's Sex and the City, so I was wrong. But
it was.
Oh well. Well, I have to go back and you can't edit on Twitter. I'll edit. I think Evan can go back and edit his tweet. He's got the blue check mark.
Yeah.
All right. So where are you at next week, ZCK?
Verint, and then I'm popping over to and then Zscaler. So I'll go to Verint. They're both in Vegas. They're a couple of blocks down the street from each other. So I'll pop into Verint, then I'll go to Zscaler, then I go to Engage. You'll be at Engage, right?
I'll be at Engage. I'll be at Verint as well. So I'll see you at Verint, but I'm splitting. I'm leaving early like you are. I'm splitting the week. Unfortunately, my other event is InfoComm in Orlando. So it's like a full day and there's no direct flights. At least I didn't get a direct flight from Vegas to Orlando. So
I think Allegiant can do that for you, but I don't know if you want to fly them.
Yeah. So, but the InfoComm after that. So next week is the double event for both of us. We're both going to be at Engage. I think Engage is going to be a really interesting event. I think it's Avaya's coming out party.
And then you go to Oslo?
And then yeah, we're going to go to Cisco Oslo and find out what's going on with their team strategy.
Between Engage and Oslo, I'm going to the UK to go to the MLB Cardinals versus Cubs there. Thanks, Wester Rowe from Extreme Networks.
It's an interesting June. I mean, I don't normally have 5 events in June. This is usually it's October that's got all the craziness, and so I guess we're still kind of recovering from backlog of events.
October crazy's coming. So
yeah, October crazy's coming. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for participating. This has been fantastic, and until our next real time, I'm sure we'll have one. Maybe we'll do one from Engage.
Actually, do that.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, I have to specify Avaya Engage because Verint is also called Engage. Yeah. So we got 2 engages next week. Very good. Okay, or 2 weeks. Until then, thank you very much for watching.